myself. You can follow at Trunk Nation SXM, and you'll find that on TikTok now, in addition to X and Instagram. All the ways to keep up with what's going on. And if you do follow, you know we have a guest today that we were supposed to have yesterday, but we did get him today, and you will be hearing that to close the show. Phil Collins, not Phil Collin of Def Leppard, Phil Collins of Genesis fame. And of course, solo artist fame, which is what he's being recognized for, being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. And I did manage to get about just shy of 20 minutes with Phil Collins. It had to be recorded, and I recorded it literally minutes ago. I literally wrapped up with him minutes ago. Phil was in our New York City studios. I'm in Las Vegas at the moment, but was happy to get any time with him. And it was a brief but really, I thought, enjoyable conversation. We talk about his solo career. We talk a little bit about Genesis, and we talk about the enormity of In the Air Tonight and what has happened with that song and what it's become, which is just this massively iconic song. So anyway, look forward to that interview coming today in this show. We'll bring it to you to end the show. Look for that. We'll roll that probably around 4:30 Eastern. Probably the last 20 minutes or so of the program will be the Phil Collins interview. So we'll take your calls, we'll do news, we'll do our usual stuff, and we'll close with an interview with Phil Collins. Again, I'll roll it for you at around 4:30 Eastern time in today's show. Tomorrow and Thursday, best of shows, back live with you guys on Friday at, of course, 3 o'clock Eastern time to wrap up the week with a Free-for-All Friday. So we will close the week with a live show on Friday with all your calls after a couple best of shows tomorrow and Thursday. Of course, live today on this Tuesday until we roll the Phil Collins interview. So we welcome your calls at 844-686-5863. And we will have some open phones time today before we get to Phil Collins. So feel free to chime in on anything you want in the world of rock music. Lot of news today. So let's dive right in. Probably the biggest news, because it's pretty much the biggest active rock band in music history. And after I think about that, I really think that would be the case, right? Because the Beatles are no longer active, but the Rolling Stones still are. I mean, the old thing, like at the end of civilization, the Stones and cockroaches will still be standing, which ties into how they were kind of teasing this record using that verbiage about calling themselves the Cockroaches or something in England. But the Rolling Stones officially announced something they've been teasing, and that is a new album. Really no surprise here if you've been following along, but the official announcement of the album has come out. It is called Foreign Tongues, as we reported yesterday. And as they teased, the release date for the album, July 10th. Once again, produced by Andrew Watt, who is a guy that I know and knew when he was a kid in New York, playing in a band called California Breed. He has gone on to have a remarkable career as a producer in both pop and rock. And now the second album in a row he has produced for the Stones. 14 new songs, 2 tracks out already. Rough and Twisted, which is a very bluesy number. And the new single released today called In the Stars. These are available digitally. There will be a physical single release, I guess basically a vinyl 45 and a CD single, and those are scheduled to be released on May 15th. Guests on the album include appearances from, speaking of the Beatles, Paul McCartney, and also Steve Winwood, among some of the guest appearances on the new Stones album. The other thing I read in the press release is the Stones are doing a press event, a media launch I'm assuming press conference for the album in Brooklyn today. Joel, did you hear anything about that or see anything about that or details about that? Do we know?
I'm going to see if I got the press release on it. I don't think I got the press release on anything going on in Brooklyn.
Yeah, what I read online in one of the posts about the record was that there was going to be a media event to formally announce the record today in Brooklyn. And that Keith, Mick, and Ron Wood would be at. So I didn't see anything more on that. I don't believe it's happened yet. It's
okay. It is here. It's kind of like tucked into this press release, and it doesn't say what time. It just says Mick Jagger, Keith Richard, and Ronnie Wood are set to attend a media launch for Foreign Tongues later today in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, it's kind of odd to not say when and where. Now, obviously, they don't want fans there, but still, I guess whatever invited media they had, they probably told, and it's probably, I don't know. Sometimes press conferences for new music are these big blowouts, and it's a whole scene. Other times they're a little more controlled. I'm not sure what they're doing here. It's past 3:00 now in Brooklyn. So it's later in the day. I'm assuming they'd maybe do it at 4 or 5, something like that. So if news goes down between now and when we end, and the live portion of today's show, again, is going to end around 4:30 Eastern time because the Phil Collins interview I just recorded, and we're going to tag that on the end. If we get any news from any sort of press conference between now and when I finish up live at that time, we'll certainly bring it to you. The big question that anybody at that press conference, if they were invited to it, would ask is, are they going to do live shows? Are they going to tour? I mean, that is really what it comes down to at this point. Sure, they'll talk about the record and what have you, but most people have only heard these 2 songs out of the 14. But the number one question when it comes to the Stones is, will they go out again? Because as good as they were the last time they toured still, and I went to one of the shows, again, these guys are now in their early 80s. You just got to wonder, can they still do it? Will they still do it? Will they position it as a farewell? I don't know. But every time, and we've been saying for like 40 years now, the Stones, they can't possibly tour again. They can't possibly play live again. They can't possibly have it in them to do it. They do it. And again, they don't embarrass themselves. They're good still. So that's going to be in more ways than one, multi-million-dollar question is if they do any shows. At the time that we're on live here with the announcement of the album, nothing about shows. But if there's a press event and there's no restrictions on what people can ask, I would imagine that would be the lead question. It certainly would be from me if I was talking to them. So anyway, July 10th release date for the new Stones album officially announced. And then just tons of other scattered news here. A bunch of concert tour announcements as well. Theory of a Dead Man and Sevendust have announced a co-headline tour today called the Dead 7 Tour. Those dates run August 7th through October 1st. These bands have some history, having toured together over 20 years ago. Also, third act on this bill opening the show is the band Return to Dust, a band that's come up on this show when we've done new music spotlights, a band that I've seen play live when they opened for Mammoth and Miles Kennedy, a band that features Slash's son in the group, who I've gotten to know a little bit and met, real good guy. So Return to Dust on as the third act opening the show. Slash's son's named London, by the way. August 7th through October 1st, those dates. Also, if you're a fan of sort of 80s pop, new wave, whatever you want to call it, punk pop, little touch of everything here, Squeeze and Adam Ant going out on a tour together. Those dates run August 16th through September 27th. Also, we had Zakk Wylde on the show twice recently, both from the Monsters of Rock cruise and then previous to that in the SiriusXM studio. The interview from the cruise you can hear now on the SiriusXM app. The one from the studio you can also hear, and you can see that one as we have full video of it up on YouTube. I mentioned to Zakk during the interview I remember that we did in the studio if he was going to do his festival again called the Berserkus. And he said absolutely he would be doing it again. And today it was announced in 2 locations, both in the Northeast. The first one, which happened last year, was done in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's returning to that site on August 28th. And now an additional one for August 29th at Jones Beach Amphitheater, which is on Long Island. I think it was Zakk on the cruise. Somebody on the show just told a story about Jones Beach and about it being right on the water and water coming in or something. I think that was Zakk. I think it was Zakk.
I think it was Zakk too, where he said like the first bunch of rows were like water up to their knees.
Yeah. I think it was Zakk was talking about Jones Beach when he was on with us. I believe in the more recent interview from the Monsters cruise. I don't remember why it came up, but he brought it up. Maybe a little foreshadowing because he is now going to be doing that with Berserkus, hopefully with no storms or water coming up. Because I've not been to that venue many times, but I have been there a few times, and it does sit right on the water. Anyway, 2 dates back-to-back, 28th in PA, Scranton, 29th, Jones Beach, Long Island. The lineup, it's actually headlined by Lamb of God. So they are actually the headliner, with Black Label Society being in the second spot, just below them. Also on the bill down, so you've got the Phil Anselmo factor because, of course, Zakk plays in Pantera now, or as he calls it appropriately, the Pantera Celebration. Also on the bill, Suicidal Tendencies. You'll get a set from Zakk Sabbath, Zakk's Black Sabbath tribute. You'll get a set from Dark Chapel, which is Dario's band who also plays in BLS. And at the show in Pennsylvania, like he did last year, there are some handpicked tribute acts on it. This year, he is putting on Van Halen, obviously a Van Halen tribute. I've seen those guys. They're real good. Bonfire, which I'm assuming is a Bon Scott AC/DC tribute, and a band called Use Your Illusion, which logic would tell you is likely a GNR tribute. Those are only on the Pennsylvania show. 3 tribute acts added into the mix. Other activities include a tribute to Dime, a hot sauce eating contest, and a strongman competition. I could just see Zakk over there in his kilt judging it. I mean, Zakk is all jacked up. Zakk has always been, in shape for the most part. Well, I shouldn't say that. Back in his drinking days, he was not in great shape in a lot of ways. But ever since, he's super thin now for his size and very cut. So he might get involved in the lifting competition. So there you go. Berserkus 2026 announced. Zakk being the master of ceremonies, and that is your lineup for that event. Another tour announced today, which I think is a really interesting pairing. It is a co-headline tour of the Psychedelic Furs and Living Color. And, I say that's an interesting pairing because, the Psychedelic Furs are like an 80s kind of new wave keyboard-driven band. And Living Color is a ripping hard rock band. Very guitar-driven and very jam-oriented. So it's outside of both bands being from the 80s, it's a pairing that I'm really curious how it's going to work because it's very different styles of music. But they're going to go out on a run together that goes from July 31st through September 6th. I just saw Living Color on the Summer of 99 cruise, and they were great as always. But they and they ripped. I talked to Vernon. I talked to Corey for a little bit. What was interesting about that show on the cruise is they did not have Will Calhoun playing drums with them, which they said Will had accidentally double booked himself and had a conflict. I don't know the drummer they were using in his place, but they had another drummer. Corey told me his name, but I don't recall who it was. But anyway, I'm sure Will be back in the fold when they get ready to tour with Psychedelic Furs again starting July 31st. The band you should keep an eye on called Living Wreckage. It features John Donay who's been playing lead guitar in Anthrax for a while. And they've released a new single called Righteous Side of Sanity. John was also a member of Shadows Fall, which is still active from time to time. He made music with this band a couple years ago. I like it a lot. It's real good. A brand new single released today from what I assume will be a coming album. Also, and I've not seen this widely reported, but I got the press release on it a little while ago. Speaking of Anthrax, the new album has officially been announced. The title of it is Cursum Perficio. I hope I'm saying that right. It's spelled Cursusom, second word Perficio. And apparently that is, whatever language that is, I don't know if it's Greek or what, translates to... Let me read this to you because I have the press release in my inbox right here. Here it is. Okay, Cursum, spelled Cursum, Perficio, Perficio. And it translates to... It's Latin for, my journey has come to an end, my journey is over, I complete my journey. Now, I don't want to speculate, but is this the last Anthrax studio album? If you translate that title, it kind of makes you think that, right? If you put out an album that basically is titled, I complete my journey is over, that kind of sounds like we're done. Now, clearly they're going to play live shows, but, it's been, believe it or not, it's been 10 years since the last Anthrax album. 2016, For All Kings came out. Between Worship Music, For All Kings, and this record, these have been great records. They've taken their time to do it, but they're great records. But anyway, I'm sure we'll ask them about this when they come on the show, which they certainly will, but interesting title as to what that kind of alludes to. John Dene, of course, is the lead guitar player in Anthrax. Along with the rest of the lineup is the classic lineup of Frank Bello, Charlie Benanti, Joey Belladonna, and Scott Ian. The album is coming out September 18th. And a single and video called It's For the Kids coming in days. So as we see, in this case, it's 4 months or so away from the album release, already music starting to come out. We've talked about that many, many times, and interesting approaches in how albums are rolled out. And the Anthrax guys, who of course are friends for like 40 years, we will do something with them. It's just being discussed now as to what, because beyond just coming on, we're trying to figure out something cool to do, maybe a little bigger. So we'll let you know when that gets sorted. Completely other end of the musical spectrum, Graham Nash of Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young has announced a tour that will go out July 7th through October 9th. Graham Nash making it well known that he will be playing CSNY music, saying that he's pretty much the only guy left to do it. Neil Young isn't going to do it. And, he's the guy that's going to fly the flag for that era of music, which he's very proud of. So if you're a fan of that genre of music, you can hear CSN tunes played by Graham Nash, who of course is the N in that band, with a tour starting July 7th. What else? We're all over the place here as far as every tentacle of rock music. Todd Rundgren with a tour announced starting August 8th in New Jersey, running through the 29th. So about 3 weeks of additional dates added onto Todd's already announced shows starting on the 8th of August. About 3 more weeks tacked on. Jared James Nichols, great blues rock guitar player. Big fan of Jared. I've seen him pretty much since day one. New album announced called Louder Than Fate, coming out on June 5th. It was produced by Jay Rustin, same guy who did the Anthrax record and one of my favorite guys working in music production today. So looking forward to what Jared's new album sounds like. What's interesting about Jay producing this record is Jay is the guy that turned me on to Jared James Nichols. It's got to be at least 10 years ago. I was in LA where Jay lives and works, and he took me to see Jared, who I'd never heard of, at a small club somewhere in the Valley, I remember. I remember Joe Perry's son was there. And I believe this is the first time that Jay is working with him, but he's been a fan and a supporter since day one, so that should be a good pairing. June 5th, again, the release date for Jared's new album. Also, the Grateful Dead announced a 50th anniversary remastered, reissue, deluxe edition of their live album, Steal Your Face. This will come out on June 26th. Talked about how many albums are turning 50 years old. We talked about Aerosmith Rocks turning 50 yesterday. So the Grateful Dead with a landmark live album, double live, and a new remastered reissue, June 26th, the release date. And this is interesting. And we have, I've been speculating about this both on the air and off the air with people. And I'm not entirely sure still what's going on. But we've talked about the band Greta Van Fleet, who came on the scene about 10 years ago as young kids. I mentioned I had them on this show in the studio at that time. Obviously, massive comparisons to Led Zeppelin. Didn't hurt him at all, helped him, took off, went gangbusters, blew up. People, every rock radio station played them right out of the box. They went on to have a very successful career, opening for tons of major bands, including Metallica, and in certain areas, becoming an arena headliner themselves recently. And then just dropped out. And then we know that two of the members did a project. I think it was two guys from the band did a band called Mirador. So it was definitely the guitar player. I get them all confused because there's brothers in the band. I think it was Jake Kiska. Did a band called Mirador.
Yeah, it was Jake.
Recently. And I heard it and I liked it. I even said on the air, I actually liked it more than Greta Van Fleet, personally. But I had said more than once, like, you know, these guys just went away. Like, are they taking time off? I mean, you just went from hearing them everywhere and seeing them everywhere to just nowhere. And when I brought this up like a month ago on the air, Joel even went online and looked at their website, which had not been updated in a long time, which is odd for a major band. And then on these last cruises I was on recently, they came up, and I was talking to some people in the business. They go, "No, I think they're making a record." And I said, "Oh, maybe they're just doing that thing where they lay low and then they just all of a sudden one day, boom, here's our record, and it creates all this buzz." And then somebody in a band that I'm not going to name because I don't want to, you know, he might not have wanted me to say this or on the air, but somebody in one of the bands on the Summer of '99 cruise said to me, "You know, bands with brothers, there's always a lot of drama," and just shook his head and walked away. So I didn't know what to make of that. Well, the plot thickens because yesterday, I saw this after I got off the air yesterday. Greta Van Fleet posted on their social media a 30-second video montage of their career from being super young, first song, highway song clips, the evolution of the band. And then I don't have it right in front of me, but I watched it last night. At the end, it says something like, "Thanks for the ride." And then on the screen comes up the four names in signature. So that supports the idea that they're done and that they've broken up and that they're calling it a day. So needless to say, their fans, the internet, is all speculating as to what that exactly means. Kind of ties in with one of the other stories I just brought up today with the Anthrax album and the name of it, translating to "My Journey Has Ended." But this is way more blatant in that it's basically a 30, 60-second montage of their career the last 10, 12 years with a literal sign-off at the end. So make of it what you will, speculate what you will. I certainly am, and everybody else is, but it would appear that they're done. At least for now. I retweeted it last night, and I put on there, you know, yeah, if they're done, it's going to be for about 5 or 6 years, and then they're going to come back and be bigger than ever. Or even if they're done for 10 years, they'll come back and be even bigger than ever. The longer they sit out, the bigger deal it will be when they come back. It is proven time and time again. If you are in a position where you can go away, and what I mean by in a position, meaning you are financially sound enough, maybe you do solo stuff, maybe you do other stuff, but if you made a mark as a big enough band and you go away and you sit out anywhere from 5 to 10, even longer years, you will come back to an embarrassment of riches in terms of what you will be offered, money and opportunities to play. Because nothing drives guarantees and interest more than a comeback from a band. And that's got to be a band people cared about. It's got to be a band that was big, that people want to see again, that had a big following. Nothing drives it more than going away. And I'm not saying, by the way, if they did end, or the bands that went away and came back, I'm not saying for a minute that it was by design, that that's why they did it. I'm just saying that that's the absolute fact. Because all of these promoters of festivals and events, they're all looking for something that creates what I call the holy shit factor when they put them on the top of their ad mat. Meaning not yawn, I see that band twice a year, that band again, oh, they're on again, oh, I see them every year on these events. The band that you can't say that about, the band that's like, wow, forgot about those guys. Wow, they had a lot of great songs. Okay, I'm all in. I mean, look what happened with what's happening now with Creed, Limp Bizkit, My Chemical Romance, all bands that went away for a long time. In the case of Creed and Limp Bizkit, bands that got shit on. And look at the business and the interest of what they do now. It's amazing. So if Greta Van Fleet are done, and it would feel like they are, I'll bet you right now, on this 5th day of May, Cinco de Mayo, happy Cinco de Mayo, another excuse to party, 2026, that between now and Cinco de Mayo 2036, God willing, I'm still on the air or still alive to be able to comment on it and say, I told you so. You will hear about Greta Van Fleet being back. And with that, they will be in arenas and at the top of every Danny Wimmer festival. You could see it clear as day. So who knows what's going on there? But that's what I got for you. You can call in about that if you got any insights. But that deal on their social media would definitely lead you to believe they are at least calling it for now. Joel, anything you want to jump in on and add?
First, we'll just send a get well soon to Dolly Parton. She went on and postponed her Dolly Live in Las Vegas residency that it was canceled after previously being postponed, excuse me. And she went on social media to give a health update, basically saying that she's dealing with some issues with her immune system and her kidneys, and everything seems to be treatable. But she is not able to fulfill her obligations for the residency this year. Hopefully we'll see her in the future coming back around for that. A couple of birthdays to shout out as well. We're saying happy birthday to the legend Bill Ward. Steve Stevens is turning 67 today, and James Labrie is 63.
See, I got to write this stuff down because I know most of these people, so I text them and wish them a happy birthday. Bill, how old is Bill Ward?
78 today.
Wow. Happy birthday to obviously one of the all-time iconic drummers in Bill Ward, and a man who I have the utmost respect for as a musician. I've interviewed him a few times. I know him a little bit. Not like I know Geezer or Tony, but I certainly know Bill. I'll never forget Ronnie James Dio's funeral and coming out of the church and hearing, Eddie. And I'm like looking around, who's calling me from a car? And there in a van is sitting Bill Ward. And he cracks the window down and puts his hand out. He goes, terrible to lose Ronnie, condolences. I said, yeah, man, same to you. And just like was an amazing moment. Bill Ward's super nice man. And I remember that. I will never forget that. How just completely crazy it was that I am, a guy that I loved and was a friend in Dio, and that I hosted his funeral, which is insane. And that I sat with Rob Halford and Tony Iommi and Glenn Hughes and Geezer, and then walking out and being called over to the car by Bill Ward. I mean, just surreal stuff that even when I think back on it. But the thing that I love about Bill Ward now is that Bill Ward, and back to the beginning, gave zero fucks and played with his shirt off at 77 years old and could not give a shit what anybody said or what anybody wrote online or what anybody thought when he was seen on gigantic stadium Jumbotron screens. I got so much respect for that. He couldn't give a shit. He was Bill Ward, and he was taking his shirt off, and he didn't care what he looked like. Have at it, world. Here I am. Go to hell. I'm playing drums with my shirt off at 77. With my gut, I don't care what you say. Have at it. Wow, what do I love that. And if you remember, when Tony Iommi came on the show, right after Back to the Beginning, I brought it up to Tony, and he started cracking up. It's probably still on the app. Go listen to it. He's like, bloody hell. I turned around. I said, Bill, put your bloody shirt on. And he wouldn't do it. He strutted around with no shirt on, played drums without it. God bless you, Bill. Oh, man. That is that is one of my favorite images of Bill Ward. For real. We had so many people like worried about, their look, their image, their outfit, their uniform, their hair, their stylist, plastic surgery, Botox, pulled back, whatever it is. Bill Ward doesn't give a shit about any of it. I'm going to put a pair of gym shorts on, and at 77, that's all I'm wearing, on the biggest metal show in history for eternity, archived for eternity like that. That rules. That's as metal as it gets. He didn't go put on some outfits, some studded bracelets, some leather outfit. There's a pair of Adidas gym shorts, and that's it. See you on stage. The best. I go to these events. I've told you guys this before. Whatever it is, and these guys that I feel bad for them almost. They are locked into their image and their uniform. Like they created a look and an image 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and they can't not represent like that. And I almost feel bad because I'm like, man, that's got to be so uncomfortable and so difficult that you can't leave your room or you can't leave, your dressing room, or you can't be seen without the look, whether it's guy liner, whether it's a wig, whatever it is. I go to these festivals that I host. It's 110 degrees, and some of these guys, they got to put their uniform on the cruises. The bands, a guy like Mark Tremonti, he can he's on stage with a t-shirt and jeans on, no problem. So when he's out walking around the ship, he's in t-shirt and jeans, t-shirt and shorts, no problem. But you got other guys, there's a uniform. They can't be seen like that. And it's funny because it's like 110 people are hanging by pools and you see these guys. I'm not talking about on that cruise, but just in general. You know, they got to have the eyeliner on. They got to have the outfit. They got to have the hairspray. And I'm like, oh, man, what a drag that's got to be. But they got to have the look. They can't be, in their mind, they can't be seen in any other way. I've seen people at pool parties. They're like in leather pants and like, what's going on? You don't have to worry about me. I never had the uniform, man. It's all good. Teach their own, but I go to these festivals. I'm out there for 3-4 days. It's 100 degrees. I'm running up and down stages. You bet your ass I'm in a t-shirt and shorts and sneakers. Thank God when I started 43 years ago, I didn't have to put on some wig or start wearing eyeliner or wearing, some uniform or some outfit I was associated with. Be the worst. Bill Ward, one of the pillars, one of the 4 pillars of heavy music, an architect. His uniform is gym shorts and no shirt at 77 at the biggest concert in history. I'll stop now. I just love it. And happy birthday as well, of course, to Steve Stevens and James Labrie, who, of course, is the lead singer in Dream Theater. By the way, speaking of birthdays, yesterday was Mick Mars' birthday. We brought that up. 75. Mick turned yesterday. I did text him. He got right back to me, which I was happy to see. We texted back and forth a little bit, wished him well. He said hello. He said to tell everybody he said hello, seemed to be in good spirits. And I told him, of course, Mick, anytime you want to come on the air and just say hello to the fans, you're always welcome. He said, I appreciate that. And that was it. And on the Hair Nation show yesterday, I played a long set of Motley and one of Mick's solo songs. I actually had a guy call into the Hair Nation show yesterday. And you know how this makes me crazy. And I didn't lay into him, but I almost could have and should have. But just, it just... Guy called into the show, to the Hair Nation show yesterday, and he said, he goes, hey, what's going on with Mick Mars? Has he ever done anything since Motley Crue? Is he ever going to do anything? Is he going to tour? I'm like, what? What? Like, of course, no, he's not going to tour. The reason he's not in Motley Crue is because he's incapacitated. And, because the guy will, same deal. I'm a big fan. How are you a big fan and you don't know about Mick's solo record a couple years ago? Like, how? How is that possible? The guy's like, well, I moved. Did you move to a place where they don't have the internet? He's like, I moved from Tennessee to St. Louis or something like that. I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, well, I think Missouri and Tennessee have the internet. I think the cell phone signal works there. I think there's radio there. Last I checked, that was in Sirius XM's coverage area. I mean, I didn't say all this because I just want to be mean, but I'm like in my mind, I'm like, so again, I got to exhale sometimes. I'm trying to be better, trying to be like more diplomatic. I'm just like, Mick put out a record and I've been playing it for a couple years. And I did, I think 2 interviews with Mick for the record. And if you're a Mick fan, you probably would have known about it. And I had no idea. Swear to God, if you heard yesterday's show. By the way, the Hair Nation show is on the app now in full, finally. So if you didn't and you want to hear that exchange, it's there for you to enjoy. And I played Loyal to the Lie from Mick's solo record, and I played like a song from each of the first 3 Motley albums for Mick's 75th yesterday. All right, thank you for all that, Joel, and happy birthday to those gentlemen as well. So again, interview. Today's guest is Phil Collins, now going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist, who we voted for. And, it's long overdue, whether you're a fan or not. I mean, the guy had an enormous solo career, in some ways bigger than Genesis. As you're about to hear in the interview, because I did it already, and Phil's spot on with this, in a lot of ways made Genesis bigger. Because I think there's a lot of people, and I know this from when those early solo records came out and became huge on the radio, huge on MTV. They had no idea Phil Collins was in Genesis. It was a whole different audience. And then Genesis started swinging their music a little bit to be more commercially accessible, which they did. I think it is a direct result of Phil Collins' solo success. And Phil, as you'll hear in the interview, has his thoughts about that. So great conversation. I would have loved to talk to him for an hour or two, but we only had just shy of 20 minutes. So it's a brief interview, but we do get some good stuff. And you do hear about, In the Air Tonight, which is such an iconic song, and all the different uses of that song, and there's one that I bring up to Phil that he had no idea about. So I think he'll be entertained by the interview. Phil Collins, not live, brand new interview recorded like an hour ago, literally an hour ago, hot off the presses. We will roll that for you coming up at around 4:30 Eastern for the final segment of the show today. But until then, we are live. And it is the final live segment until Friday, because I'm taking tomorrow and Thursday off. So we will do Free for All Friday live on the phones, but final live segment. So let's get your calls here. 844-686-5863.
More band t-shirts than most people have t-shirts. Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk, Sirius XM, Faction Talk, Channel 103.
Good morning, Sirius XM listeners. This is your captain speaking. Go ahead and turn your radios to Channel 103, where you'll find Sam Roberts Show, the most audacious program available on the airwaves. He'll be speaking with celebrity guests, staying on top of all major pop culture developments, and digging through the internet for laughter-inducing tidbits. Turn your channel to 103 weekday mornings, and you'll be in for a nice, smooth ride from 8 to 11 a.m. Eastern.
The 2026 Netflix is a Joke Fest is underway in Los Angeles right now, featuring some of the biggest names in stand-up comedy performing all week long. Can't be there? Netflix is a Joke Radio's got you covered. Hear interviews, live shows, and exclusive stand-up with some of your favorites. Plus, What a Joke with Tom Papa and Fortune Feimster are joined by guest host Eric Andre live every night. Netflix is a Joke Fest is on Netflix is a Joke Radio, Channel 93, and on the Sirius XM app.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. He was in great health. It was out of nowhere. Had a stroke. And super hard, obviously, for the whole family. But my dad had life insurance. So even after he passed away, he was still able to provide for my mom. And of course, by extension, my brother and I. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com. Because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test. Just a few health questions. 10 minutes. You're covered. Your family is covered. You can get $2 million in coverage for $2 a day. That's a 10-year term life policy for a 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. We don't like to talk about death in our culture, but everyone's going to die. You are going to die. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, ethos.com/free. Rates may vary, billed monthly. Ethos.com/free.
Ready for big fun? Start for free at Chumba Casino. Sign up and enjoy a welcome bonus with gold coins and sweeps coins to explore hundreds of online social casino games, all from your phone. Spin, play, and discover something new whenever you feel like it, with no downloads needed. More games, more ways to play. Let's Chumba. Only available in permitted states. No purchase necessary. See terms and conditions for details. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+.
Isn't life just better with a dog? They're our companions, our comfort, our family. They sense when we're sad and stay close. They greet us like we've been gone for years, even though it's only been 20 minutes. Service dogs change lives. Therapy dogs, they heal hearts. Every dog makes our world brighter every day. Dogs give us everything they have. Don't you think they deserve the same? And you can't give your dog their best life while feeding them food that's stripped out of all the life nutrition. That's why Rough Greens puts it all back. You simply sprinkle it on their food. It's packed with probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, and over 20 life vitamins and minerals. All natural, made in the USA, and hundreds of thousands of dogs now have more energy, better mobility, healthier from the inside out, and your dog can be one of them. Get a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com and use discount code BLUE. That's ruffgreens.com, discount code BLUE. Rough Greens, so good, your dog will ask for it by name.
Tour Edge Golf has launched their all-new Exotic Series drivers, offering explosive distance driven by industry-leading MOI, guaranteeing more accuracy and confidence off the tee. Designed with full carbon construction and pyramid face technology to achieve maximum distance, power, and forgiveness, the low-spin Exotics LS, the ultra-forgiving Exotics Max, and the speed-inducing Exotics Light drivers deliver performance above all else. 3 distinct designs, 1 uncompromising Exotic standard. Learn more about the Exotic Series at touredge.com.
Now back to more hard and heavy conversation. Trunk Nation.
The greatest show, bro. It's awesome.
With host Eddie Trunk.
Come and get it.
All right, we are back. Phil Collins. Again, I think most people with this show certainly would expect it to be Phil Collin, a common mistake. But it's not. It is Phil Collins joining me coming up. You do not want to miss that interview. Again, we pre-recorded it, had to just based on his schedule, and we did it literally like an hour ago. I did right when I had to come on the air live. We just wrapped up. So Joel is going to run it for you coming up at right around the bottom of the next hour. Will be right around 4:30 Eastern time, so stand by for that interview. Until that time, we have some time to play with here on this Tuesday. Again, our phone number is 844-686-5863 to take your calls, and I'm going to do exactly that here in just a second. One other thing, though, that just hit me that I wanted to mention. There is this new thing, I think relatively new thing going on that I'm picking up on in music lately, that I'm hearing everywhere. I'm hearing in restaurants. I'm hearing in offices. I heard it in Pilates the other day. I don't know what this is or if there's a name for it. And there may even be a SiriusXM channel dedicated to it. I'm not aware of it if there is. Maybe a streaming platform has it. But have you guys picked up on this thing going on now of taking songs, rock songs, pop songs, 70s, 80s, 60s, even 90s, and just basically turning them into dance songs, like light dance songs, like not EDM, not techno-y dance songs, but just kind of like easy listening, mass appeal, accessible, dancey songs, where they just take the song. I couldn't avoid it because I was hearing it in a gym for an hour yesterday because they were pumping it in. And I noticed it's a formula on all of them. Now, we had some conversation yesterday about AI on this show. I don't think that's AI stuff. And it was funny, too, given that we got into a conversation about AI and music yesterday. I was on Instagram and I looked at a post from my friend Richie Kotzen, which you can see on his Instagram. And he was, Richie is like genius, ultra mega talent musician who does everything himself on his records, produces them, mixes them, plays every instrument, writes it, everything. So he was in his home studio working on a new song, and he was trying to get a keyboard bass part to match the bass he played. And, his wife walks in with the camera. Obviously, they were, it was a setup thing. But he said, she joked with him and said, "What are you doing? You making music, pretending to make music using AI?" And he turned around, he goes, he goes in Richie's way, he goes, that's what really bothers me the most about AI. He goes, because you can see, I'm sitting here going crazy to get a sound and to match it up and sync it with all the other instruments I played. Because if people hear this and say, "Oh, he probably just did that with AI," he goes, "I'm going to blow a gasket." He goes, "Because I don't fake it. I'm actually putting the work in to create these sounds and these songs." So it's funny where we touched on this AI thing yesterday, and then I ended up seeing that on Richie's feed, because, again, it's just like the musicians who truly play live, and then the band before or after them, half of what they're putting out is on a tape or a computer or tracks. You imagine how shitty they feel, because everyone's talking about how great the band that was on before or after them were and how great they sounded, when what they were hearing was fake. So you can imagine how irritating that would be to a truly live band that didn't sound perfect, but shouldn't have sounded perfect, just like Sully from Godsmack said when he was on with us last week. Rock and roll's not supposed to sound perfect. And again, major props to Sully for taking a stand and putting a tour together where all three bands he's insisting on are actually playing live. My God, do we need more of that? Anyway, I digress, as I often do. This thing that I'm hearing now, the formula is you get a breathy female singer. And what I mean by that is in pop, I don't know if you've noticed it, all these like female pop singers have this breathy vocal quality. Yeah, it's always, Billie Eilish, who maybe started it, Sabrina Carpenter, these people, their vocal is very, I have no other word to describe it, very breathy. And you know what I mean if you've heard songs, unfortunately, by those artists as a rock fan. But you get that type of female vocal, right? And then you find a classic song, you re-record it, and you just put a dance beat behind it. And now there are entire channels dedicated to that, because I hear it all the time. It's not like it's one song and then there's three normal songs. There's clearly programs dedicated to it, because I'll hear it for hours in gyms and restaurants. Like in the gym yesterday, it was everything from a Wham song. It was Careless Whisper by, I don't know if that's Wham or George Michael. It was I Was Made for Lovin' You by Kiss. It was Jefferson Airplane, Somebody to Love, which is like 60s. Those are just three that come to mind because I'm listening. Wait, I know this song. And of course, the biggest one that probably started it all with that viral TikTok thing was Fleetwood Mac Dreams. But now it's become a whole thing. Joel, have you picked up on this at all? Are you in your circles hearing this?
So I'm familiar with it more as like a techno and like dance style. What you were describing sounds a little more mellow than what I'm hearing. Because like, you know, I hear like the upbeat stuff at the gym where it's basically just an EDM track with like classic rock hooks built in. So not quite, I don't think, what you're describing, but it sounds like that mechanism is being applied everywhere though.
It's not, you know, when I say light, it's what I mean is it's not like over the toppy, EDM-y, giant sounds that would like scare some people away. It's very accessible, mid-tempo. They're all kind of in the same beats per minute. It's all a same breathy female singer. And it's all, the biggest thing is they just put some dance techno beat under the song. I mean, they do it literally. It's like, and I bet you could do it with a computer and somebody that does AI, and it might even be AI. I don't know. But you can literally take any song with this process that they're doing, put a dance beat behind it, whatever genre the song was, have this vocal done, whether it's real or a computer, produce it up and pump it out, and you're going to get in every gym and every restaurant. I wonder if SiriusXM has, first of all, I wonder if there's a name for it. I wonder if there's like a category for it. Because they're all covers. They're not original songs. And it's definitely a formula, and it's definitely something where people can put it on, and it will, every song will be a cover in this new sort of format. It could be an AI thing. I'm sure there's a way you drag and drop 30 songs into an AI program and say, turn these into dance songs, and that's what it spits out. But given our conversation about AI yesterday and music, and then hearing that, and then seeing what Richie posted, I'm like, yeah, I really don't know where we're going here. It ain't good, though. To me, there's nothing good about it. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's like, you know, somewhere on SiriusXM that I don't know about, a channel dedicated to that stuff, because they clearly have it. It's on streaming or whatever, because you could go for an hour and hear nothing but those types of songs. Elton John, Tiny Dancer, they did it too. I think that was Dua Lipa that did the vocal on that. And I think he's actually on it. 844-686-5863. Let's go to the phones right now. We'll start with Brian, who's in New Jersey. Hey, Brian.
What's up, Eddie? My neighbor.
Hey, man. Hey, what's happening?
Hey, just wanted to wish Vic Mars and Bill Ward a happy birthday. Bill Ward, arguably the best drummer ever, in my mind, next to John Bonham and some other folks.
Bill Ward, real quick on that, Brian. One time when I interviewed Bill, I talked about that, and I said something like your approach to drumming. And he said to me, he corrected me, and he said, you know, Eddie, I don't consider myself a drummer.
Nope.
I consider myself a percussionist.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because his style was such that he not just drives the band, but plays around the band in a certain way. I thought that was interesting.
Well, if you listen to like Children of the Grave, he has like a regular drum beat, but then there's like a whole tom thing that he does behind the drum beat. It's actually really neat. But, you know, Bill Ward's, I mean, just unbelievable. One of my all-time favorites, if not my all-time favorite. Hey, I just wanted to, I'm sure you probably brought it up, but the Iron Maiden documentary comes out Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And they're showing that in up at Rockaway at AMC. So I'm already got my ticket. So I'm going to go check that out.
It's more than one day. Is it go over the weekend, or is it just Thursday?
No, it's multiple days. I don't know how long they're going to run it in the theaters. But like I saw the Zeppelin doc up there at Rockaway at the IMAX, and it was amazing. I mean, just
Me too.
Hopefully they mixed this Maiden doc, which I'm sure they did for the theater and the IMAX. I can't wait to see it. There's just never really been a great documentary for Maiden. This is long overdue, man. I am stoked.
Yeah, I won't be able to see it Thursday because I'm traveling. I'm back to Jersey, actually, but if I can, I'm going to try to see it over the weekend or whenever I can. Or they might send me a screener. They invited me to a premiere of it in New York, but I wasn't there at the time. And then they had one in L.A., and I wasn't there at the time. And thank you, Brian, for the call. But I look forward to seeing it. If you heard when I had Steve Harris on this show just a couple weeks ago from the Monsters of Rock cruise, we brought up the documentary, and Steve had an interesting comment about it. He said, "We did not make this documentary." He said, "We participated in it. It was made by somebody else about us." So it wasn't really. And I remember I pressed him on a little bit to kind of feel like where he was going, because it almost felt like maybe he was distancing himself a little bit from it. But it's not that. It's just that Maiden is an extremely controlled band. And what I mean by that is from a management level, from a publicity level, there's very, very, very little you see from anyone in Iron Maiden publicly that they don't want put out strategically at certain times. They, maybe more so than any band that I know, are extremely strategic about what they reveal, when they announce it, and how they announce it. And look, it's served them well, because 46 years after the first album, they are still one of the biggest bands in the world. So I think that's more where Steve was coming from, where they kind of turned the reins over on this thing to somebody else, and they participated in it, but it's their vision and their story, not the band telling the story. I mean, I haven't heard of it being done in IMAX. I think that would have been probably mentioned if it was done in IMAX. If you're going to do a film in IMAX, it's quite expensive. So I doubt it. I doubt there's an IMAX version of it. But it's called Burning Ambition. If you want to hear Steve's comments on it again, pull the interview on the SiriusXM app. It was just a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I'm excited to see it. I hope that they were able to interview Paul Di'Anno before he passed away. And by the way, there is a Paul Di'Anno documentary coming as well that my friend Wes Orshowski did, who did the Lemmy doc. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but I think that's still coming down the pike. 844-686-5863. Here is Keith joining us from Maryland today. What's happening, Keith?
Hey, Eddie. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, thanks. What's happening?
A couple things for you. Went to the M3 Fest over the weekend here in Maryland, and, it wasn't a big lineup because I guess there's other artists that are doing other festivals or whatever, but it's normally a 3-day fest. It was stripped down to 1 day this year, and I heard a little rumor that this might be the last year for it, so I want to get your take on that. And then the other thing was I took my wife to the Cyndi Lauper show. I'm a rock guy, but we did something out of the norm, which we did the Cyndi Lauper Las Vegas residency, and it was the night that the heckler was heckling. I don't know if you heard about that in the news or anything, but we were there the night, and he was right behind us.
No, what happened? Tell me what happened.
It was just that after she sang a song, she would just start talking. It was a lot of talking, a lot of stage banter, and the guy was yelling out, "Just play the music." So I didn't know how you would feel about that. Like if other artists dealing with the same stuff.
What was she talking about? Was she telling stories about the songs? Was she getting political?
Yeah,
what was she talking about?
No, nothing political. It was all about her history, or she did get back and say something. And like I said, this stuff's been posted on social media, but he did it a couple times, and the audience was getting really upset with him. And I just thought it was, kind of unfair to her. But, I don't know if it's going to be a trend thing that you'll see more in the future, people doing this if somebody is talking up there, stage banner or political or, whatever.
Where was it in Vegas? Where did she do this at?
It was at the Caesar's Palace, the Coliseum.
Oh, that's a big venue. So the guy must have been pretty up front, up close, right?
No, this was up in the nosebleeds. But those, the casino venues, they're typically kind of small, smaller than an arena, your standard arena. So she could hear them, and everybody else could too. And then it was somebody else on the other side of the arena or the Coliseum doing the same thing. But I was wondering if you were in town for that. No,
I mean, I may have been in town, but I'm not a Cyndi Lauper fan, so I wouldn't have been to that show. But I've been in that venue. I mean, for a theater, that's a pretty big theater. But yeah, I'm assuming if it's fairly quiet, you could hear somebody yelling stuff out. But so she stopped the show and went back at the guy?
Yeah. She was saying that she was from Brooklyn, and I don't know the exact words she said verbatim, but she was saying, "Don't make me come down there after you," pretty much.
And did you feel that she was talking too much, or did you think it was appropriate in how she was presenting the songs?
If she did it a little bit, I would say it was appropriate, and I felt for her, but I think she was doing a little too much with the. It was like she would sing a song and then she would talk for a good, 4 or 5 minutes between each song. But
Joel just
experienced that with any other concert.
Joel just sent me a clip. According to TMZ, people, she told the rowdy audience member, "I don't know what the fuck you're saying, hun, but please remember where you are, okay? I'm from Brooklyn, and if I want to fucking talk, I will do a tap dance if I want to if I fucking want." Okay, that apparently is the quote.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, obviously I wasn't there. I mean, so I'll take both of your things, Keith, and thank you for the call. Okay, so his first thing was M3. Oh, he hung up. I let him go, but I wanted to ask him how the attendance was. Because I'm wondering, I had heard from some people it wasn't well attended. I heard from other people it was, so I don't know. For those that don't know what M3 is, I think most people do at this point, it's the name of an 80s-based rock festival in Columbia, Maryland, at an amphitheater there that has, it's one of the few independently run amphitheaters, meaning it's not owned by Live Nation in America. It's a beautiful facility. I haven't been M3 in about 4 years, but I've hosted it for a few years, on and off. And when it started, it was 3 days, 2.5 days. It was 10,000 people maybe. It's an outdoor amphitheater, what's known in the business as a shed. And it was fairly successful when it started. It had reached the point where it got so successful that they actually put up a second stage that was it's a very wooded area, but out in the woods. And I remember one of the years I hosted it, I had to have a golf cart for the first time because there was a whole nother stage that they built that looked like a big octopus or something out in the woods. And I remember after that year, the next year, I was there again, and they said, well, that stage we're not opening for this anymore. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, because the attendance dropped and, it costs money to open that stage and there's not enough people to support having a second stage. Okay. And then the show started to get compressed. It went from 2.5 days to 2 days to 1.5 days. And then this year, it was 1 day headlined by Tom Kiefer, and it was last Saturday. So look, the guy who owns that branding is a friend of mine. So I certainly hope He can figure out what to do with it. And I don't know if there's a future for it or not, but obviously the arc does not look good when you get smaller and smaller every year. So I'm not sure what the future holds and if there's been an official announcement, but it's not obviously a good sign. Maybe it moves, maybe something changes, I don't know. But one of the challenges, which I kind of alluded to earlier in this show with that stuff, is the fact that there is a level of redundancy with all of these festivals. No matter what the genre, that's one of the biggest obstacles. Meaning bands that people have seen many times. And what happens is, if you look at that bill, okay, Tom Kiefer was the headliner. Now, I love Tom, but Tom would only be an amphitheater headliner with 8 other bands under him. In other words, if you look at Tom's touring currently, and he's on the road right now, it's at theaters. It's at like House of Blues level size venues, 2, 3, 4,000 cap theaters, not in 10, 15,000 capacity amphitheaters, because that's not what he is as a headliner, as a draw. But on this, he's the headliner. Then they put 7, 8 bands under him, right? But the other part about it is, that's not unique, him playing that, because Tom Kiefer is on tour right now doing 20 shows. So if you want to see Tom Kiefer, you can go to any of those 20 shows. I'm hosting one with him next month in Houston. So it's very hard when you have a certain budget to find things that are going to really move the needle, like I talked about earlier, the holy shit factor. Like, wow, I've not seen that guy. Wow, I've got to travel. I've got to get to that. You don't have that, because these guys are all on tour. By the way, that goes for all of these festivals too. Like if you look at Rocklahoma, which I also host coming up Labor Day weekend, you've got Godsmack on there. I think Dorothy is on there. I think Stone Temple Pilots is on there. Well, that's a tour. That tour is going across the country. We just had Sully talking about it. So that festival becomes a stop for that tour in that market. There's not a uniqueness to that. Now with Rocklahoma, the one thing they have that's unique this year is one of only 4 or 5 Slayer shows that are announced on the bill as well. So there's that. But do you see my point? A lot of these festivals, they all have bands that are just on tour anyway. It's not like, oh, wow, I've got to travel to that festival or to that city because that's the only time I'm going to be able to see that band. That all went away. That used to be how festivals were, but it's just not like that anymore. So that's the challenge. And when you do a festival like M3, where it's very rooted and branded with the 80s, there's another obstacle. Because after a while, you run out of 80s bands that you can put on. Because you can't afford going to a Bon Jovi. So there's only so many times you can do Rat and Tom Kiefer and LA Guns. All great bands, but after a while, it's like, oh, them again. There's a redundancy factor. So those are all obstacles in booking and keeping these things interesting and creative and pulling people to them. Somebody called into the Hair Nation show yesterday and brought up Rock Island, which lasted for 3 years in Key West that I hosted. And they said, why did that go away? Same deal. They had problems getting the right bands at the budget point, the money they had to spend. But the other thing about that one was it's super expensive to go to Key West. It's super expensive. In the winter, like a Holiday Inn will cost you $600 a night. So that was an obstacle there as well. Over to his other thing about talking during concerts. I have an issue. My issue is with fans talking during concerts. People talking to themselves, having conversations during a concert, oblivious to the fact that people are supposed to be listening to the music and watching the band. Just on the Creed cruise, during Creed set, 3 times I had to move because Creed blasting loud, people just talking like for hours. Dude, what are you here for? Like, you got to say something to somebody like that. That's the thing that I see that makes me crazy. I remember I went to see Rival Sons a number of years ago. It was a GA show. I had to move 6 times on the floor. People having conversations. I'm like, Jay Buchanan's up there singing his heart out. Like, what's so important? You can't wait till the show's over. The caller is talking about when the artist talks too much. And, my thoughts on that are, there's a line, obviously. You've got some artists that talk nonstop between songs, tell stories about every song, set every song up. And then you've got others that don't say a word and just blast through the songs. I saw Filter recently. We had I did an interview with Richard Patrick on Summer of '99. I watched their set. I don't think he said a word to the audience until like 4 or 5 songs in. Then said something brief and then just kept playing. Some people like that. Some people like when the artist talks and gives backstories and does material and talks a long time between songs. I remember seeing on the other end of the equation, I haven't seen Foo Fighters in a little while, but I saw Foo Fighters probably 15 years ago at the Forum in LA. Dave Grohl told stories between every song. I remember the late, great Taylor Hawkins when I saw Foo Fighters at a festival at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, it was Voodoo Fest in New Orleans. I remember talking to Taylor backstage before the show, and I said, how long is your set tonight? And he said 90 minutes. And I said, a little shorter than normally. He goes, yeah, because it's a festival. He goes, but I love that. I go, why? He goes, because Dave has to shut the hell up. He goes, because when he has all the time he wants, he'll talk for half of the show. Sometimes Dave Grohl is entertaining. It depends where you land on it. Now, if it's being positioned as a storyteller show, you're going to get that. But I didn't know somebody took exception to Cyndi Lauper yapping away, apparently. And it depends what they're talking about. If it's political, it can be polarizing. One last story on this is I have a friend of mine who looks after high rollers at the Hard Rock in Florida. And if you're a high roller at a casino, often called a whale, you are taken care of. Depending upon how much you spend in a casino, meaning lose at the tables, you will get airfare, you will get hotel, you will get anything you want. And for those that don't know, there are people that work at these casinos whose job it is, I know many of them, to take care of those people to keep them coming back in the hopes they'll keep losing money in that casino. So whatever you need, they'll take care of for you. So a bunch of people the casino bought a suite to bring a bunch of people to go see Bruce Springsteen on this most recent tour at the gig he did in South Florida. And, Springsteen normally talks a lot during his shows and tells stories. But I guess people didn't get the memo. Springsteen's latest concert dates were highly, highly political. But in fairness to Springsteen, no matter where you land on that, he did disclose that before he went on tour. So it should not have been a surprise to anybody who went to those shows. If you don't want that, that's not the tour for you. But not everybody pays attention. Not everybody knows what's going on. They just hear, oh, free ticket, concert, what have you. Oh, I'll go to that. And then they go there and they're like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? This ain't me. All right, I'm not down with this. And this guy was telling me that half of his invited guests, halfway through the show, got up and walked out. They're like, we're not here for this. We're not in agreement with this. So there's that end of the talking thing too. So, you just got to know what you're buying. You got to know what you're going into. Now, in a case like that, I could see it's a little different. Getting free tickets, you might be just a casual fan, and then all of a sudden you get there and you're not following along that closely. You're like, oh, I'm going to go hear Dancing in the Dark and Born to Run, and I know those songs. You didn't know what you were going into. I could kind of see that in that context. But, you got to do a little homework whenever you go see a show these days to know if there's an agenda, to know who is or isn't in the band.
XM Faction Talk.
Hey, what the heck is wrong with this thing?
Welcome to Morgan Wallen Radio.
What's happening now?
Morgan Wallen Radio.
Morgan Wallen what?
My very own channel, Morgan Wallen Radio. It's on right now, channel 64. I guess I'm the problem.
This I gotta hear.
It's pretty cool that I get to hopefully have an impact on somebody else being in charge of this station.
Morgan Wallen Radio, channel 64, and in the Sirius XM app.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet, without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch. This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime. Plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows, and an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want and skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at Philo.tv.
Ready for big fun? Start for free at Chumba Casino. Sign up and enjoy a welcome bonus with gold coins and sweeps coins to explore hundreds of online social casino games, all from your phone. Spin, play, and discover something new whenever you feel like it, with no downloads needed. More games, more ways to play. Let's Chumba. Only available in permitted states. No purchase necessary. See terms and conditions for details. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today.
Visit mintmobile.com/radio. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
When I was a kid, my grandpop used to say to my grandma, "I love you to the moon and back." Then he used to say it to my mom, "I love you to the moon and back." It always symbolized his deep love for the mother of his children and the mother of his grandchildren. So this Mother's Day, I've created a beautiful to the moon and back sterling silver diamond necklace. I wish you could see it right now. Wait, you can. Go to IHateStevensinger.com and see the silhouette of a crescent moon filled with sparkling diamonds, hugging a silver heart. It's engraved with "I love you to the moon and back" right on the other side, a thought she'll hold next to her heart every day. Tell the mothers in your life that you love them to the moon and back, just like my grandfather did. It's only $148, shipped for free in my signature black gift box. Visit us at the other corner of 8th and Walnut in Philly, or at the Village of Newtown in Bucks County, or online at IHateStevensinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers. That's IHateStevensinger.com.
Welcome back to the Rock Destination. Rock Nation. Your authority for all things rock.
Amazing show.
News, interviews, and your sounding board to talk all things, well, you know. Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk. Eddie Trunk. Sirius XM.
Just awesome.
Faction Talk.
All right, it's Eddie Trunk, Trunk Nation, here on Faction Talk 103, and it is a great honor to be joined by this gentleman who was recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist. We welcome Phil Collins to the show. Phil, thanks for some time today, and congratulations. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you very much, and thank you for the congratulations. I'm doing great. It's a good day.
You know, I'm a voter for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I do my ballot with my audience on the air, and I let them help me pick the people I vote for. And we certainly have voted for you and voted for you this year. And for many years, me and many of my audience were like, this is long overdue. How has Phil Collins, as a solo artist, not been on a ballot? How has this taken so long? Was it a surprise to you when you finally came up and got inducted as a solo artist?
Absolutely, yeah. It was. I got an email, I think, and I've always, followed up after, the whatever year that was, the results, who got in, who didn't. But I'd kind of thought that was it for me. I didn't expect it, and I'm very, very flattered and pleased that I was thought of, and enough people on the panel, I guess it is. I don't know how this thing works, but it's very nice to be there, and I'm very pleased.
Yeah, it's amazing how many artists I talk to when this moment comes that don't really understand the process. But there's obviously a nominating committee, and then once they nominate you and put you on the ballot, then it goes to the voters, which is a different panel. And so it takes both steps of it. The other question I would have for you about this, Phil, what was it important to you? For your fans, it was important for you to be recognized as a solo artist. You had immense, massive success as a solo artist, but you, of course, were in already with Genesis. But did you think about it? Did you say, well, I have had this whole other career that was pretty impressive as well, and kind of wondering if you'd be recognized for that? Was it something you thought about?
Well, I wondered if I would ever be recognized for it. I mean, I've lived it, so I know that there's been a lot of, a lot of success, fortunate success. I mean, I don't take any of that for granted. I mean, I've had some fantastic fans and people that have supported me over many, many years, but I didn't really think it would ever happen. I know it sounds probably difficult to believe, but as far as I'm concerned, I still have the enthusiasm for playing. I can't play really anymore, but I still have the enthusiasm for it, and music and writing that I did when I was a teenager, So for me, it's just like being invited into a situation, a nice club, that kind of pat on the back and well done, lad. It's very appreciative.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening that don't realize it, you are in some rarefied air because you are one of the few artists who have sold over 100 million albums with both a band and a solo artist. The others in that category include Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. So that's a pretty amazing statistic. And I had said many times, and I'm not sure statistically if this is correct or not, but at least in America, I feel like your solo work was actually more successful, at least commercially, than your work in Genesis. Have you ever thought about that?
I don't think about that kind of thing too often, but you're probably right. I mean, I think when I started having successful records, Genesis started to have successful records, and I think that had obviously some of that success of mine spilled over into the Genesis success and not the other way around. I mean, we were a big cult when we came to America with Genesis. I mean, people had heard of us, some people had heard of us, and as soon as we started to get played on the radio, that changed things. And then we had sort of Follow You, Follow Me was a kind of a hit single, and then we had girls come into the audience as well as just spotty guys. You know, it was so I think, yeah, it definitely helped the Genesis, and I think my records were probably more suited to American radio and things like that. You know, so I'm very. I think that's the way round it went.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very valid point. I definitely think your success as a solo artist definitely influenced Genesis. I mean, even obviously people that know the history of Genesis knows that early on it was more of a progressive rock band and very non-commercial in a lot of ways. And then, of course, with your success and then you singing and everything, I would think, and Phil, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but having grown up with the music, I would think that kind of shifted and happened maybe around Abacab, right? Would you say that's around the period where Genesis started getting on the radar in America as a commercial rock act?
Yeah, well, and then there were three had Follow You, Follow Me, and that started to get played. I think Abacab, the song, particularly,
right,
was a little bit more. I mean, it's not the right word, but I mean it was a bit rockier than Genesis we usually would have thought to have been. And that was it was not a conscious effort to get into the charts or anything, but it was a conscious effort on our part to shake things up from what we were doing for us. You know, I mean, it's easy to say and difficult to believe probably, but we never really used the charts or that kind of thing as any impetus or any influence on what we were doing. We would love to have had sort of hit singles or whatever, but we were mainly played on album rock, and you know, it's for us. We wanted. I mean, it would have been nice to, but we never really wrote to order. You know, we just wrote what we wrote, and I think Abacab did with a stripped back sound and arrangements and things, which we did consciously, just to shake things up for ourselves and keep ourselves interested, because we were not interested in repeating ourselves at all.
When you look at your solo career, obviously it starts with Face Value 1981, and I'm curious, since that's what you're being honored for, your solo career, which is obviously very, very vast and had a lot of different styles and what have you to it, and an incredible amount of success. But can you take me back to where you were when you were making Face Value? What was the inspiration to do that? What was the catalyst to step out of Genesis and do a solo album? And were you confident at that point? And did the success of the album surprise you?
Totally surprised, yeah. And I wasn't confident at all. The kind of the landscape at the time was I was going through some personal things, which everybody knows about now, but I was going through some personal problems, and I went to Vancouver, where my then wife was, and I was prepared to leave Genesis, you know, just to make this, my marriage work. Well, I was going to leave the band. In fact, I did leave the band. We had a meeting at a pub, and I said, I'm leaving, because I'm going to do this. And they said, whoa. Don't rush into anything. We've got so much material, we're going to do our solo albums. So Tony and Mike went away and did their solo albums. I went to Vancouver. In theory, left the band. Came back, and they were in the middle of their solo albums, hadn't finished yet. So I had we'd all bought recording equipment in Japan, which was the last tour we did before this episode. And I went home to my empty house, and I don't want violins to start playing, but I was on my own. So between that, my studio, learning how to operate it myself on my own, and going down to the pub where I spent a lot of my time, I would come back and just fiddle around on the piano. My aunt was a piano teacher. She left me a piano in her will. I had it at home. I started playing, and the more I played, the better I got. And the more I played, the more things came. Then I started to record them onto my equipment just to see if I could physically do it. And then I never thought of an album. I was just enjoying doing that. It was only really after a few weeks, months of doing that, while the guys finished their records, that I found that I had things that I quite liked, and I was playing them to my manager, or our manager, and he was very enthusiastic, and so one thing led to another, but it was never intentionally going to be a solo album. It was only after I'd accumulated all these songs that were to become Face Value, that the idea came about. I played... Ahmet Ertegun was in London, and in between him being in London and where we are in the story, we'd recorded in Duke, and my job was to go to London, where he was in his apartment there, and I was good friends with Ahmet, very good friends. Went up there for a drink to play him Duke, which was my job. But then he said, what have you been doing? Because he knew I'd been going through some tough times. And I said, I've been writing, and I've just so happened to have a cassette player with me, a cassette of what I'd done. And he said, well, let me hear it. So I played it to him, and he said, you've got to make this a record. This is great. I'll do anything you need. And suddenly I saw it in a different light. This man who I admired and loved dearly suddenly saw something in it that maybe I didn't. And from that moment, it became an album.
And of course, Ahmet Ertegun, the founder of Atlantic Records. Phil, when we talk about Face Value and talk about your solo career, especially in the rock sense, which I've spent my life in the rock side of things, In the Air Tonight looms incredibly large. It's become an amazingly iconic song. I'm curious, with that song, where did it come in the creation of the record? Was it early on? Was it later on? I always find that artists have very interesting stories about these songs that they never expected to become these landmark songs. And even that song, from an arrangement standpoint, from a tempo standpoint, it's not something you'd first listen to, I would think, and think it would become this massive song, but it certainly has. What were the origins of the song? Where did it come in the process?
Well, I can't quite remember where it came in chronologically, but it was probably kind of early on, I think. We'd come back from Japan with Genesis with these drum machines, and I didn't, as one would assume, a drummer, being a drummer, thinking like a drummer, I didn't need a drum machine, I thought. So I gave it mine to one of the road crew. Then I started playing around on the piano, and and in my little studio, which is really a bedroom. I mean, it's got a lovely view over the garden. You know, it's not a dank studio. It's like a really very nice, you know, bedroom, and big enough for a drum kit and some recording equipment. So that's where I was working, and I just set up this. I asked the road manager if I could get my drum machine back, and he said, "Sure." You know, so I got it back, and I started to learn how to use it, how to program it, which was very, very basic. God, I mean, it was nothing like what you get today if you buy a drum machine, but it was very basic. It was really a cocktail drum machine, you know, for people that play on piano in bars. And I wrote this nice pattern, which was kind of moody, and then I had a keyboard which had a couple of really nice sounds on it. And one of them was number 36, which was the In the Air sound. That became the pad sound, if you like, for the song. And I went for some chords, and the chords sounded great with the drum machine pattern. And then that was it. You know, I mean, it just went round and round. I set up a microphone and I sang improvised lyrics. That first verse is all improvised. It just came to me and I sang it, and then I wrote it down. I didn't write it then sing it, you know, it was the other way around. So I felt something was going on, but I didn't really know what to do with it. I put some drums on, added a couple of overdubs, but I only had 8 tracks, so I soon ran out of space on the tape. So I recorded some drums, live drums, at my house, which didn't sound very good because I had to hit a drum and then rush to the desk to change the sound, then rush back to the drums and play it again. So it wasn't very practical. So the demo was basically what you hear on the record, except for the drums. When we got to the studio and we copied all my demos onto 24-track, because I'd realised that I'd made the album, all I had to do was finish it. And that's when we came up with the sound that I'd used on Peter Gabriel 3 with Hugh Padgham, which was the gated sound. We used that because I used the same studio, the Townhouse, and you know, the drums that was the fill I played that particular take, that particular day. It wasn't thought out, choreographed. You know, it all everything fell into place gradually. And it's become the record that people think of when they think of me.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, when you think of, I'm assuming, it's been covered. It was recently covered by Marilyn Manson, of all people. It was,
really? I've not heard that.
Yeah, it's out now. It came out recently. And of course, you know, I wonder if you saw the movie The Hangover when Mike Tyson does the drum break. I mean, you've seen that, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter, she texted me one day, have you seen The Hangover? And I didn't know anything about it. And I made a point of watching it. I didn't even jump on it, you know. I kind of eventually I saw the film and saw that scene. I mean, that's just, it's had so many different lives. I mean, Miami Vice was the obvious one.
Yes.
In the pilot edition of that, and I've seen there's been so many versions of it that I have people send it to me to okay it, you know, because I got to approve it, and I'm quite happy with most of them. I don't think I've ever said no to any of the versions. But Marilyn Manson, I didn't even know that, so I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you didn't get your permission, so you better get on that one.
No, but in actual fact, I sold my catalogue, you know, a couple of years ago, and so it's not in my control anymore. But
well, Phil, unfortunately, I could talk to you forever, but unfortunately, they're telling me I've got to wrap up with you.